Sorry, are we ready? I wonder if we're ready. I think we are. Let's try. So, welcome to the world's famous billions watched here on TikTok. Not TikTok. Where were you now? I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. We are live on YouTube. This is actually our first official live on YouTube, and I want to say welcome you in. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Joe Lobo. Welcome to the world's famous. We do it again. Welcome to those world's famous billions watched here now for our first live here on YouTube. We also go live on TikTok. That's where we originated from. Also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So welcome you all in. Everything looks so good so far. I'm monitoring how I sound like on my phone. Yep, looks like we're good. I was worried, and I have to tell you, I have to be honest, like it's taken us a lot to get to where we're at. Even the issues we have with with my setup. I find some things I have to work through. Like basically, if you follow my journey over on TikTok, basically this is where we usually do our lives for an authentic podcast. And then what it eventually ended up happening is like, okay, let me go ahead and make another YouTube channel, because I did have another YouTube channel before, where basically we were posting different content back there. We were doing cinematics, and it led to short form cinematics. So it's basically at least a minute long of just things I saw when I was in the Philippines. So by the way, if you didn't know, for you guys in YouTube, I am currently living in the Philippines. I live in the province of Bohol, so I'm in the Visayas. Most of you are probably familiar with Manila, far up north, where I'm down near, almost near Mindanao, but we're in Visayas. We're good. But for the most part, I've been, I was living in the United States for almost, how long was I in the United States? For the rest of my life. So 40 plus years, and we made a decision to, move here to the Philippines. And then basically, and it was, long story short, it's just it was one of the things where, it was a kind of a joke to my friends. It's like, hey, maybe you should become a content creator in the Philippines, and that you're gonna have a lot of time on your hands. And then it started off with going from my personal account. Faithy, welcome in. How are you? Started from my personal account, and then it led to where we are right now, essentially. So going back to having our previous, we had a YouTube channel before. It was basically our cinematics page, and then it led to our inspirational series called The Daily Authentic. It was usually those ones that you see where basically there was going between like, I don't know, it was like what, 3 to 5 minutes mostly of me just talking, giving inspiration to individuals and blah, blah, blah. And then this is my new on TikTok. TikTok is a different beast within itself, where like, I'll be honest with you, sometimes people have short-term memory where they can't take so much information. And a lot of people told me like, yeah, maybe you should shorten it down and get to, instead of having 5 minutes, you just fit it to a minute, because, attention spans are very short. So what that led to be is basically just like transformation of my content. You can follow me on TikTok. It's Joe_Lobo 555. Basically like you can see like, how the transition happened where, we came from doing our short form content to doing inspirational daily stuff from Monday to Saturday. That was great and all, but it wasn't sustainable. If you could understand how long it took me to even just get a post out, it was pretty much about 3-4 hours. 3-4 hours, literally, I kid you not. I wake up at 5:30 in the morning. This is when I was living up north in the province of Bohol, where like, we're kind of in the rural areas. Basically, we would wake up at 5:30 in the morning, do recording for 30 minutes, around starting at 6 o'clock. And then after we're done, take 3 hours of editing to do a minimum of like, we did a minimum of like 2 to 5 minutes. And then sometimes those 5 minutes turned to 9 minutes, depending on what we're talking about. And then, yeah, it was good. Tried to do it Monday to Saturday, but because our lives were busy back then, like, mind you, we're also going to the city, which the city was about 2 hours away. And for the most part, it tried to be something that was just like, it was draining. It was hard. And it came to a point where it's just like, this is how the birth of like, me going live on TikTok happened, where like, I wanted to show people like, this is what I do to post your updates of these daily authentics. And that led to one thing to led to another, going to more lives. And then the journey to become a podcaster, as you can see right now. So now when we talk about where we're at right now and at this venue right now, because always the dream was going to be like, okay, we'll use, like for example, I'm using OBS to show you all to go live on you'll go live. I think just that to go live on YouTube. And back then, when I was in the province house, there's no way, no heck, I can do it. I was on Wi-Fi. The internet in the Philippines up north wasn't that great. I was on my laptop, which could barely, if even, handle the processing power that I'm doing right now. And it was one of the things I had in mind to do, but basically we had to wait and see to get better equipment. Meaning I had an iMac, which is the one we're using right now, where essentially for the most part, it was in my storage and I wasn't able to get it till at least December, where we came to a decision that like after 2 years living in the Philippines, like this isn't gonna be something that's full time. We had to be here. And we immediately made that decision back, we arrived in the Philippines back in March 2024. And initially it was going to be something like, well, we'll go 50% in the United States, 50% in the Philippines, based on, our ideas of what we want to do to make the sustainable living here in the Philippines. By the way, if you guys didn't know, I am an entrepreneur. So podcasting is my purpose, one, but there's other stuff we're doing with my older that we're trying to make a sustainable living to make it work here in the Philippines. But for the most part, just the journey back then, it was a little bit harder. But I mean, we still did it though. We were on TikTok, we did our thing, like we were on our phone, we made it work. And then the transition happened, we became a podcaster. So long story short, because I think most of you all know when I talk to you guys on my podcast, like, yes, I'm the ones I can post here on YouTube because of, copyright. Now we're good now because this is copyright free, safe music. So we're all right now. But before, and this is, mind you, for the folks who are brand new to this on YouTube, you can also check out the rest of the 40 plus episodes of my podcast that are available on Spotify and also on Apple Podcasts. Just search up Joe Lobo Presents The Authentic Podcast, and you'll find it there. What I usually do after these recordings, I will, I'll do some minor editing to put like, my branding and whatnot, but these will be rehashed back into Spotify, back into Apple Podcasts. What you'll probably see is even this as well, as a long form, which, basically, I've been doing for the past 5 episodes. I'm able to do because of like, copyright free music. So anyway, enough of trying to get the rambling, but getting to this part right now. Once I got my iMac, we've been doing a lot of testing to make sure it works, because the initial idea of all this is basically every content creator does it right now, where they're dual streaming. So they're dual streaming simultaneously, whether they're on YouTube or Twitch, or YouTube and Twitch, or YouTube and Kick, whatever have you. There's probably a portion of people here on TikTok who have the ability to use OBS with TikTok and then go live on YouTube. I'm not one of those lucky few, and this is where like basically the journey started, where like, I wanted to do this all in OBS because of the fact that like it's gonna make it seamless. We're not have to spend so much resources to do stuff, or like, also show individuals as well, you can do this shit too. So like, by the help of AI, by the way, I'm telling you guys, use AI. AI can do so much for you, and basically like even like a Joe Schmo like me, who is brand new to all this stuff, I'm able to make this all work in OBS. And you know why? Because I'm using AI, I'm using ChatGPT to help me figure all this stuff. They went step by step. If there's certain things, like for example, I didn't understand, I would put pictures and send it to ChatGPT and say, here, this is where I'm stuck. What does it mean? And surprisingly, ChatGPT was able to solve most of it. So anyway, I got it up to the point in OBS to make it work. And then I've mentioned before in my podcast, like we were running into issues where, because I have this on the Mac, Macs are special where they need special treatment, meaning that, whatever you output to OBS, it's not going to be recognizable. Meaning, for example, with a Mac, even though I'm playing background music right now, what you can only hear in the output is my mic. So that's basically one of the challenges I had, where just like, okay, how do I figure this out? And it turned out to be something where I had to buy a virtual audio mixer called Lobo, because there's an issue with Macs where, for example, Macs are not able or not designed, or they have some sort of shit where like they're not able to send multiple channels, I guess you can say, to OBS. So one thing OBS can hear when you add as a source is just the mic. It doesn't hear your music, doesn't hear your background stuff. If you're trying to play stuff off, maybe you're trying to play a YouTube video that's copyright free, it can't hear it. So what that ended up being is basically this. It ended up becoming something where, okay, it's asking ChatGPT, how do I fix this? And it's like, oh, this is what's happening. This is usually for Macs. You need to get Loopback. Loopback is a virtual audio mixer where you can compile all the sources you like, just like here on OBS. Compile all the sources that you're gonna have for your sound, and then put it into a channel, and then put it to output, meaning output as in where is it gonna come, where you're gonna hear it from. So treat it as like it's like for example, I have a Maono E2, which is accompanied by my PD400X. Basically, I'm doing the same stuff but putting extra channels into it, so that when you put it into OBS as a source, it can say, oh, okay, cool, these are all the same things. You have no worries about it. So when I found out that it's going to cost me $100 to get the registration for it, to get the licensing for it, I was like, okay, let me hold off, because like there's other things in the Philippines that, we have to pay attention to, we have to get. So I was kind of holding off, and, I didn't do anything with it because of the fact that I'm just like, let me just wait till January to figure all this shit out. And then now, like, as most of you are well aware, I was able to get TikTok Live Studio. So the folks who are on TikTok who are following me right now, make sure if you see me also, if you're curious to see me on TikTok, make sure you follow me over there. It's Joe_Lobo555. Follow me over there. You'll see that I also do other content here. I was thinking about bringing that content here, like playing video games. I don't know, but I think I want to keep it, to my podcast, just to make sure that, like, as in the algo works. I think the algo understands, okay, he's using streaming podcast. If I start introducing some weird shit, it might throw stuff off. So I don't want to do it for now. But anyway, I was gonna hold off on it because then that's where I was gonna hold off on it. Wait till January, and then that's where I found that actually I can go to now. I can use TikTok Live Studio for Mac. This has been something that I've been talking about for a long time, but there was never been a date to release it. Until one day I went to YouTube and checked the channel because I was trying to figure out what were alternate solutions I can do where I don't have to pay $100 for the licensing. And there is another way there. I forgot the name of it, but if you know the terminology of black box, that's what it was. So what a black box basically is a system that you have no idea what's inside. It just works. So there is a way I could have done it. I could have paid that one, but the challenge is you're not gonna know what's wrong. You're not gonna know what's in there. So if there's anything as an event where, you know, something goes wrong, how do you fucking troubleshoot? so like, you know, I didn't want to do that. It is free, but like, if me as a person who talks about quality and wants to like make sure things are working, like mind you, what I've done before this to making sure all this shit is gonna work correctly, where I don't buffer. And I'm looking at what I'm pumping right now. I'm pumping 11K right now, which is good. So I'm getting 1440p. It looked better. This is what I wanted. But I think for the most part, you know, like when I got to identifying, like, okay, I was able to get TikTok Live Studio. It was fine and dandy. Now that plan kind of changed. I was like, okay, maybe I can dual live using 2 apps. And then I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, let me put it aside. And then one thing led to another, where basically even like my video game streams, I was still use like OBS for the Windows capture. So I would run my PS5 because I have a Elgato HDX 60. So basically I would feed the source into OBS so you can get the picture. And then what I would do for TikTok Live Studio is do a Windows capture, which you can do because you can't do video capture in TikTok Live Studio for Macs yet. I don't know why, but you can't. But basically I was still using OBS just to broadcast it locally so I can Windows caption in TikTok Live Studio. TikTok Live Studio, when it first came out, was perfect. It was cool. It worked as it's supposed to be. I'm able to see my stats. I'm able to see everything. It was fine. Until one day there was an update that happened where basically the shit started hitting the fan. Everything started fucking breaking. So what that led to is like trying to figure out the solution. So how do we fix this? And it came to a point where, like, you know, and just similar to OBS, where you have to set up your sources of like, you know, what are you using? What are the equipment you're doing? Blah, blah, blah. You do the same thing for TikTok Live Studio. When I was trying to even add my audio source, it wasn't recognizing anything. So it was coming to that situation of fight or flight where, you know, what do you do? Do you go back to your phone? And mind you, I was doing TikTok Live Studio for almost 2-3 weeks. So I was getting accustomed to it. I was like telling people, like, I'm not going to go back to my phone unless I need to, if anyone needs to join people's lives. That's the default of it. You can't use it to go on people's lives. But I mean, it's only a tool to go, you know, to go live yourself. So basically I was running into that situation and it came to mind that I just bit the bullet. It's like, fine, let me just fucking get the licensing to get loopback and make it work. Surprisingly or not, loopback is easy to use. It's just like I said, you just compile and add the sources into, like, for example, the template you're using. So I have a template that is a way where OBS can pick it up to say, okay, this is the new source, which is whatever I named it. And then you add the components there. What are the things you want to put in there so you could hear as, you know, as the output to OBS. So I added that, make sure it works. It was perfectly fine. And what it ended up doing is, instead of using the mic sound originally that you can do in TikTok Live Studio, I used loopback and created a virtual audio channel. That's what ended up happening. Use that. Everything was fine. Everything was been pumped in. Nothing as in music or sound, because previously before in TikTok Live Studio, I was using my own E2 mixer to pump everything. Because in TikTok Live Studio, it doesn't care. Like, you're able to, if everything is getting fed to your mixer, for example, like my situation, everything, as in my mic, my sound, the background music you're hearing right now, it was getting fed into my Mono E2. So I had no problems with TikTok Live Studio. It was working perfectly until the day it broke. It didn't work anymore. So I had to find a solution. Basically, kind of doing the same thing what I did with Loopback. Use that. It was working fine. Then one thing led to another. Was just like, okay, let's see the quality. How can I embrace the quality? Because like on TikTok, they only allow you to go to 1080/60. And also too, I think that for the most part, it looks like they downgrade your picture quality, your video camera quality, because like, you know, I'll be honest here, like the mic, but not the cam, the cam I'm using is a DJI Osmo Pocket 3. So I'm pumping this at 4K 30 at least. And then sometimes I feel like when I was on TikTok Live Studio, it wouldn't pump it. It would degrade the camera. So here it goes again. I was trying to figure out, okay, what do I do to make this better? And I thought it back again. I was like, well, since I'm already have a virtual audio mixer that's getting pumped to OBS, and I'm kind of using that same stuff to pump out back into TikTok Live Studio, why don't I just put the whole broadcast in OBS and just create a scene and put the source? That's what ended up happening. So I would basically make a scene like this, what you're seeing here on YouTube, and then basically do the minimal stuff. So essentially think about that OBS is doing all the heavy lifting of all this. And then, you know, for example, and the most that TikTok Live Studio is doing is just the other widgets they have, like for its relative to TikTok, like, you know, the follower count, alert notifications, all that stuff. So, but all the heavy lifting is now being handled with OBS. It was working fine, worked perfect, and that's where it came to a point where we're just like, okay, let's see where we can go next level. Let's try to go to a point where like, okay, let's dual stream, because, you know, ChatGPT was saying, yeah, you can try it. Looks like you have the power to do it. And mind you, I have a 2020 iMac, the last Intel iMacs, which, you know, I bumped up the RAM to 64 megabytes or gigs. Sorry, 64 gigs. I want to say megabytes. 64 gigs of RAM. And it was for another purpose. But however, things aligned in the sense where it just works fine for what I'm trying to do for streaming or like stuff I do for my podcast. It just worked perfectly. So what I'm trying to tell you is like, you know, basically what I thought it was going to be is like, okay, it's going to be able to handle these type of streams where, you know, if you pump it up to like at least 1440p, 1444, I think 1440p 30 we're going right now. 1440 30p, but basically it would be able to do this, and which it is. So this is where we led into, you know, doing dual streaming. This is the couple 2 days ago where you saw me here. Sometime maybe you caught me here on YouTube, or you caught me over on TikTok going back and forth trying to figure the test and blah blah blah. We tried to run it and then we hit a roadblock. It looks like it was running to an issue where like my Mac was the video rendering was essentially not able to take it, where you can notice that, for example, my lives here on YouTube were basically super buffering, where there's like it wasn't rendering as perfect as it could be. So that's where we, like, you know, going to the drawing board, just trying to figure out what's happening. And then it came to a situation where we're just like, okay, well, I guess the final solution is going to be, we're just like, for now, until we figure out a better computer, because I think what's the restraint right now is my computer. Because like literally I want, like I did before this live here on YouTube, I wanted to make sure that, and mind you, welcome to everyone else who's listening to me on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You know who you are, because as you know, I put these on these mediums as well. But I could basically, you know, came to realization that, okay, maybe we can only do one at a time until we can find a better solution. Who knows down the road? Right now, I don't think we're gonna get a computer anytime soon. So we gotta work what we got. So basically, you know, and why am I telling you all this shit? And this is just like, you know, I'll be honest with you. Different circumstances, different problems, you find a solution, you troubleshoot. It's all the same shit. So what I mean by you is just like, you go through your testing of figuring out, okay, how can we make this work? How can we think? What are things I have to buy? What do I have to change? Like you absolutely think about like, okay, what are the things to make this successful? And this is like what I'm telling you right now. The stuff I have to go through to figure out, okay, how can we get to the point where my initial goal and plan is to see if we can dual stream. with what the resources we have a 2020 iMac. And it looks like the apps don't take a lot of RAM to be able to have it struggle. Now, if I were doing this on because I have an M2 MacBook, if I were to do this on my M2 MacBook, of course this shit would die. There would be no way, no how that we can go live both on two platforms and then have a struggle. We'll probably definitely have a struggle. So why am I telling you all that shit? It's just like, the stuff you go through when you're like trying to find a solution to something you're working on. And this one, it was not what I expected, but we got to a point where I realized, like, hey, at least I can go live on YouTube and do this podcast here. And that's one of the things that's great, is just like the takeaway for me going on YouTube, honestly, is the quality is much better. So that when I come to the point where I do, I repost these to Spotify or repost these to Apple Podcasts, I can at least be assured that the quality of these are going to be much better. So that's where I was trying to go for. And this is like why I told folks previously, like, even like I talked to my previous podcast, just like, quality is always going to be important when you're growing. Like, grow at a pace that you can handle. Obviously, like, like I tell folks, like even in previous, like, you don't have to blow out the boat to get the best equipment. You can start from just having your phone and just talk or sing or whatever your purpose or why is, And it's one of the things where just like, when you get to a point where you can do it, you can get to a point where you can pay a little bit more. Of course, save some money to get the shit that you want. And then essentially you'll get to a point where like, yes, you can afford it. You can piecemeal the shit that you want to buy and put it together. And then you'll get to a point where just like, okay, that podcast, that singing that we were doing about 2 years ago is totally different to what it was going to now. So like, even if you look at the progression of myself, like even like the journey of being a podcaster, we started first on Spotify, and then we had our vertical trend. Obviously, we're limited to what TikTok was showing us, where I can only show you a 9:16, and those are the ones I was reposting onto Spotify. And that journey within itself, where going to Spotify and figure out, RSS feeds, I can enable the RSS feeds to dump my podcast to other places. Oh, look at that. I can go to Apple Podcasts. And then that led to going back to YT. Honestly, like I mentioned before, I did mention I do have another YouTube channel. And I was initially thinking about reliving it, and just thinking about, okay, well, can I just repurpose it? And I was like, I was about to do that, but I think the universe, and you'll find about to me, and I was thinking about talking about that today. We'll see. But basically, like, I think the universe is able to say, no, you can't. And the reason why is, one, I forgot the password to that YouTube account that had my cinematics and short form, my daily authentic. You can find it. It's, Joe Lobster Rolls World is where you can find it. But I think for the most part, I forgot the password to that. And also too, the email address that I was using, I no longer have the access to it. I think there was some issues with that email account where it got terminated or ended. So yeah, it's basically a active YouTube account, but I can't do anything with it. So that's where it led to creating this channel, which is Joe Lobo Presents. Now, Joe Lobo's Presents essentially is it's a culmination of stuff. But I think right now, it was initially I was thinking about it when I was building this together. I was like, okay, let me just do my podcast, and then maybe I can do video game stream sometimes. But I think for now, it will probably just be the podcast. It will probably just be the podcast because I want to make sure that I can at least get the best visibility by staying in one lane. Because I'm afraid that if I go to different lanes, then that's going to cause me some issues where it might take a little bit longer to figure out like where, the amount of visibility that I'm going to end up getting. So that's the concern I had about that. So if anything, if you do want to watch me play video games, you can always go and watch me on TikTok. I'm getting better at it. Call of Duty 7, Call of Duty Black Ops 7. I'm getting better at it. And I play some other games as well. So if you want to check that, you can go check that on TikTok. Maybe it might come here to YouTube, who knows, but this is like going back to my channel. I think for now, it's gonna be the focus is gonna be for the Authentic Podcast. So it's taken us a lot. Again, I mentioned it's taken us a lot to get to this point. And we're still not done yet. I think the problem, the challenge is the why, and it's one of the things. The universe will give you things that you have to think about, things you have to find a solve to, and please believe you find a solve to, and you'll get you prepared for the next level. And sometimes that next level can be even more difficult, where it's just like, okay, well, the thing you learned before has you put in a different mindset. We're just like, okay, cool. We don't have, now we are able to handle it this way. So essentially, like I mentioned before, the original goal of OBS is to dual stream, meaning as folks who are familiar with this, you have the ability using an OBS to log into multiple sites, multiple platforms, and go live at once. That's always been the goal. So using, going live here on TikTok, going live here on YouTube, and then going live on TikTok. The challenges I'm running into is TikTok is shady. Not shady, shots at the TikTok, but I mean, like, they're a challenge and a pain in the ass to even get the stuff you need. So basically, I need the RTMP access and to my account so I can put it into OBS to make it work. Now, there are ways to do it where it's through going through Restream.io, where I'm putting my live on a Restream site, and then I will be posting and using that source on OBS. But the problem and challenge it is I don't know if, like, I think I checked it before, is the ping was super high. It was almost near 100. So, like, imagine doing a live at 100 and putting all this work in, and you find out the shit doesn't work. That kind of deflates everything. So, that is the one drawback right now. Is just like, basically, I'm not able to get what I need from TikTok. But however, they did launch TikTok Live Studio. TikTok Live Studio is good. It is buggy as shit. Like, I don't know if they have Q&A when they do updates, because, like, once I got it, it was working perfectly fine. Like, in OBS, you can see, like, how your performance of your lives are, see your drop frames, how much bit rate you're pumping, all that stuff. It has that in TikTok Live Studio, but the challenge is, shit, it stopped working after the bug fix. So, like, whatever they did broke a lot of shit. And then just recently, I think it was yesterday, they dropped another update where, it did something. It looked stable, but now there are certain things, like, for example, my alerts, I can't use my alerts. So my alerts don't work. So who knows? But anyway, like, I remember, and I can share with you, I think I shared you guys multiple times on my previous podcast, or I had, went to TikTok support. It's like, hey, can you just give me the RTMP access that I need so I can put this in my OBS? I know people use it. And then it was like, it's the stuff where, like, it's the robotic response where, like, oh yeah, well, we only give to certain people, and they repeated. I remember multiple replies, they kept on repeating the same shit, where it's just like, it's like to the point where, are you even fucking listening to what I'm saying? So anyway, like, it was just kind of came to a moot point where it's just like, okay, well, I guess I have to wait until this shit happens. And then blessing in disguise, TikTok Live Studio happens. Even though it's buggy, when you find a way, and then, going through the situations where, and this is a good thing too, God bless that TikTok Live Studio is buggy, because this is where we figure out, okay, the shit to prepare us for OBS. And this is what we did. So, I was going to wait for Loopback, which is my virtual audio app that I have to put everything in. I was going to wait till January, until something happened in TikTok Live Studio in December. I was like, oh shit, I guess I have to buy it now. And then the same thing as, like, okay, having the conversation, thinking, I was like, how can I make, okay, given that how TikTok Live Studio is super buggy, how can I relieve less of the strain from TikTok Live Studio to make it all work? OBS. It's just like, I thought about it too when I was thinking about that, when I was talking to, and this is something I kid you not, I have, like, regular conversations with ChatGPT, and they're like human conversations, like, okay, I want to run this in my mind, what do you think, blah blah blah, and it's just like completely organic. And I asked the thing, and I got the inspiration of this when for example, I was doing how I got the inspiration from how I was video capturing me playing video games on my PS5 to OBS using, my Elgato HD60X. Not the actual video capturing piece, but more of like, okay, Windows capture, right? And validating, okay, I was trying to figure out some certain things. Since I was already doing it in PS5, like, playing video games on TikTok using Windows capture of a scene on OBS, and it worked successfully. I was like, okay, what if I just did everything else in OBS and would it work? And Lobo Hold, it worked fine. I mean, there were some minor adjustments like the audio. I had to figure out like, okay, how can I make the audio work in TikTok Studio for the most part? Because it's like it was a little bit different because, you know, all the sound and whatnot that's coming from the video gameplay is coming from the video capture device. So this one was a little different. It was like, okay, if I do the same shit that I have like similar to what I did to, you know, the video game capture, where I just did simple Windows capture from TikTok Live Studio of OBS, the scene, and just made it fit and look like I was playing, you know, it made, you know, you were able to see me play video games. I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, I can probably do the same shit. And that's where it led to, okay, let me import my camera and use the camera that is, you know, basically from OBS, get the true, at least almost near the true quality of the, you know, of the camera I can get. Because like, yes, I'm pumping on TikTok Live Studio 4K 30, but they dumb it down to like 1080p and it looks still, you can tell it looks super grainy. So like, this is where the challenge I was running to is just like, you know, being a person that's always into quality of my stuff and improvement, when I look at what I put out to the other platforms, or just like, okay, does this look good, honestly? And it's like, honestly, but I'll kid you not, definitely an improvement coming from a phone and using actual software on a computer, 100%. But like one of the things on TikTok Live Studio, you can see my picture and my face, it looks super grainy still. And that's like where our eyes, like, you know, like for example, like for all those people who play video games, right? You can tell like, oh, I know this is not running at 60 frames per second. I see it's running at 10 or 30. Same thing, same eye I had in TikTok Live Studio. I was like, oh, wait a minute, my cam doesn't look right. So like, you know, basically this is where I was trying to figure out, okay, how can I improve my quality? And the idea of TikTok adding everything as a source, a scene, into TikTok Live Studio, into OBS, and just doing a window capture, having TikTok's Live Studio do a Windows capture of that same scene, and it worked fine. I just had to add the audio into TikTok Live Studio. Can't tell the difference. However, it's the most weirdest shit that I still have to do. Even though I'm showing myself in TikTok Live Studio, I still have to add a camera. So what did I do? I still added a camera. I just hid the camera very, very small behind all the other sources. You can't tell. So it worked perfectly. It worked fine. So, I mean, it's one of the things where it's just like, you know, eventually I'm hoping one day it turns out to be that, you know, individuals like on TikTok will realize, yes, there are people like Joe Lobo that uses OBS. They just want the RTMP access to his own account. So he can put an OBS, just let him do it. And it's like, it's one of the things too. It's just like, you know, I think it's one of the things for TikTok where they're trying to hold on to what they have and try to control what they can do. And I get that. But at some point they have to realize that everyone, I know they know that, where everyone's multi-streaming. And one point, and I know they do it for like, you know, there are probably a lot of like, what do you call it? TikTok Live pros, or like the pinnacle of TikTok people. I'm pretty sure they have access to of the RTMP stuff, and they use OBS because you can tell, unless they have a advanced version of TikTok Live Studio is not even out yet. I mean, be honest with you, like there are people using on TikTok. So hopefully, like, you know, I get the opportunity to do the same thing in OBS, so we have less strain. We just have one tool to use and we can go live twice. But for the meantime, until we can figure this shit out, we have to go through two apps. Now trying to run them simultaneously. You should have seen this shit yesterday where like everything was going in slow motion when I was testing this out, and then just like, was it yesterday or the day before? We were testing this out, and then like my iMac, it's powerful enough, but I think the video rendering of doing something difficult, it was just got to it, or there was a bottleneck. You can literally see everything was slowing down, like just the regular processes and everything. And then I'm also looking at, you know, I always look at the monitor performance on my iMac to see how it's doing. And then there's certain things where you can tell like the compiler it's using, it's like it's trying to keep up or struggle, because I can see the size of the work getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's one of the things I'm monitoring. Mind you, I have 64 gigs. but like, you know, I guess when it comes to video rendering, it's a different story. So until then, we're just going to be doing like, okay, the idea is, okay, I'll probably just go live on one platform. So I'll go live here, for example, I'm here live on YouTube, and then we'll also go on to TikTok. So we'll alternate back and forth. I mean, again, these podcasts are reserved for at least like, you know, once a week. Either way, even like for Spotify or for Apple Podcasts, you all see the same shit regardless of where it's going to be. The quality might be a little bit hit and miss. However, I think we'll probably be a little bit better because, like I was mentioning before, all the heavy lifting is going to be done by OBS. So really, I'm hoping when I do these in TikTok Live Studio, it's going to look similar to this, which it should be. I hope so. So that's the plan. We will probably go, you know, go live on YouTube and go live on TikTok. We'll just alternate the weeks and see how it is. Again, like at the end of the day, like for me, what's important is basically always going to be the quality. Like, how are these going to look like after I complete after we're done with this live, like when I'm reposting these into like the other platforms, how is it going to sound? How's it going to feel? How's it going to look like? And I think what I'm already noticing, just like even we're here on live on YouTube, the quality is much better. And that's 100%. And like, you know, that's where like I want. And I've always been like, I don't know if it's a purpose, I don't know if it's a dream, but it's always been a vision of mine where just like we will get to this fucking point. And we kind of are. And I look back to like, you know, looking back to when we all started. And I mentioned this a couple times down on my podcast, where like the humble beginnings. I mean, to each his own for the people who think like, oh man, Joe, you came from the United States and this and that. And one thing for the guys and for the people on YouTube, you're watching me. Sometimes I get that. I feel like I get that emotion sometimes because of the fact that I live in the Philippines, but people know I'm from the United States. So they think that automatically, oh, he's this wealthy individual who can afford it. No. Why should I feel so? He's not like us. He's like, you know, that mentality. And it's one of the things why I have to reiterate to people. It's like, bro, it's not like that. Only if you knew like what was going on in the United States, the shit that I had to deal with, or even like the cost of living in the United States, how ridiculous it is. It's about the same shit. Now when it comes to like, obviously me coming from the United States to here, yes, there's somewhat an advantage because of the conversion rate of all our money that's in the United States to here. So of course, by design, we're going to be a little bit steps forward in the sense of like the things we want to, you know, things we have available to us as resources. But I mean, at the end of the day, like the bring up, the bring up of where we are at this point in our life, like, you know, like the buildup of our brand from like, you know, coming to, as mentioned in the beginning, starting from doing our short form cinematics and doing our daily authentic motivational posts, and then going to a point that we went to the journey where we are, you know, where we are now. It's been a long journey, and I'm happy and grateful for the opportunities that led me here. Yes, you know, one thing I do learn is just like, you know, for the most part, while you go through the journeys, sometimes like the people you gain as friends, they always change. And I have to remind folks, like, and I tell that folks time to time, when you get to a point where you are evolving and getting to a different level, just understand that sometimes the people you made friends with, they probably won't follow you sometimes. And it's one of the things you have to get to a realization. You have to realize that it's just like, okay, well, you know, friends come and go depending on the circumstance. Like you cannot expect, unless you allow it, you cannot expect people who have the opposite vision of you. Like, you know, you would say you have a certain purpose to do certain things, but like the people around you, they may support you, but they don't believe in you. There's a good chance that, you know, it may not turn out well unless you just allow it to be the position where like it kind of influenced you to not do the stuff you want to do or you choose to do. So what I say from this is just going from this beginning is like, you know, this one of the things I thought about too, like, you know, this today. And I thought about like, okay, well, damn, like the amount of people I've interacted with, especially, and it's talking about TikTok. Now, when we get to a point, yes, we're at humble beginnings at YouTube. But when we get to a point that we kind of get more accelerant to the fire, I guess you can say, that it's probably going to be the same thing too, which is like, people, you're going to meet people, you're going to lose people, etc. But it's always going to be the position you have to understand. It's just like, as long as you believe in what you believe in, that is the most important thing that you can take away of all of this. Is like, you yourself have came to a position where just like you fully believe in your purpose or why or whatever it is. Like for me, my purpose or why of all this, like people ask me like, why do I do the shit I do? What inspires you to do the podcast? Like there's someone that asked me, and I was playing video games last night. There was someone that asked me yesterday, what drives you to do this stuff? What drives you to go live? What drives you to do your podcast? And I honestly said the same thing. It's just like, honestly, it's not about money. And this is the one thing too, if you're a content, unless on TikTok, you have to see this shit on TikTok because like, I mean, some people can get money easily because of certain situations, if you know what I mean. But like for the most part, like is that really for the ones who have a certain purpose, not just to sit on the camera and look and stare, like if you actually had a purpose of something you want to do big, that's going to inspire folks. Like for me being a podcaster and trying to inspire individuals to believe that you are more than capable to do whatever the fuck you are as in your purpose and why. Even though people may disagree with you and saying, this is not you shouldn't do it, it's too scary, it's uncomfortable, you should come back to the comfortable where we are and be fine. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of people that can tell you shit like that, where just like, it might deter you from deciding your goals. But the most important thing is just like, it's as long as you come to a point where you just still continue the path, regardless how many times people will say that you are dumb as shit and why are you doing this, it's never gonna work out. At the end of the day, when you keep on just moving forward and just believing that, like, yes, you're more than capable to do any of this stuff, and you keep on believing it, you keep on just having the vision in your mind that you are going to get to that end goal. You don't know how it's going to be, but you're going to get to the end goal that a lot of people are going to hear your shit, hear your soapbox, whatever it is. And you'll be amazed, like, when you look back, like, of where you started and where you are now. It's like, damn, I actually went far. And that's like for me, right? Like, I know, be honest with you, like, I know there's a lot of people, especially on TikTok as well. I know there's a lot of individuals who go on TikTok and they just want to, and it's a different beast. I'll be honest with you. Like TikTok is, and especially in Philippines, this is why one thing I like about TikTok Philippines is a community aspect of TikTok Philippines. Everyone will come together in a what do you call it? In a live, and come up in a panel and just talk about their lives, talk about whatever has bothered them, or just be aligned because they're doing the same profession, or they just need some avenue to talk to somebody where just like, they just need someone to talk to because there's no one around them in the Philippines. Mind you, there's thousands of islands in the Philippines where, like, maybe in your own province in the Philippines, or in your mind, there's no one that understands who you are. So this is why people go to TikTok and then they find that community. They find the individuals who are like, wow, there are people just like me who think the same way. And this is what I loved about TikTok Philippines. And like, that's the question of like, I got too as well. I was like, why did you start in TikTok? And it was just one of the things organically that made sense. We're just like, okay, where am I gonna, what would make sense in the Philippines if I'm doing all this stuff when I do my content creation? It would be the Philippines. And mind you too, like, I've met a lot of people from the United States who use TikTok. Actually, some good people. I consider them good friends now at this point. We're just like, yeah. If it wasn't for TikTok, we wouldn't got to know who they are. But I think for the most part, it's just like, TikTok is an amazing beast. But honestly, there are situations where you can see like it's driven by another way. Let's be honest here. It's driven by another way. So like, for example, like, you have your singers there, of course, and I do my occasional singing over on TikTok. But I think for the most part, it's driven, the vehicle it has over there, right? It's driven differently. So say, for example, like, and if you already know this, whether you're listening to me on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or this is your first time on YouTube, you're listening to me, you'll notice that, for example, like, sometimes the vehicles that people have, and it's called a PK, that people will like go co-host together, and they'll see who's going to have the biggest score, meaning who gets the biggest gifts. And what I'm alluding to is there's even top tier individuals, like they're in their pro leagues, that all they do is in their content is they sit there and just wait and they just chill. And what ends up happening, they get a rain of gifts. And then that's how much they made today. And you'll be surprised how much they make. So like, yes, some people, and I think that's where it's driven. Like the way it's driven as in growth, even for TikTok, is like, it's based on gifts. Like honestly, the more money that you as a content creator get from people shows, okay, you're more popular to people. So when it comes to individuals like me, we're just like, I'm not asking people to give me money unless you want to give me gifts, or you want to eventually come to the point here on YouTube where you can send me a super chat. Sure, by all means. I'm not gonna say no. That's maybe it's a sense of gratitude you want me to send me gifts, and that's why I always take in like you and TikTok as well. Just like I don't ask people to send me shit, but if they want to send me stuff, well, am I gonna say no? Of course not. But like, what was I getting to? Like, for TikTok, like you can see, like there's individuals who just like they make a living just doing that, just sitting in front of their computer, and then they get huge gifts from people. Like these are big gifts. These are like in terms of US dollar, these are hundreds of dollars. So like, yeah, people, and that gets insane. And it's the same thing too. I always have to mention to make sure, because I don't want to stir the pot with people, but to each his own. Like, you can agree to disagree to whatever the fuck I'm saying. But like, yeah, some people just like, if that's what you want to do, if you just want to do that content, that's working great. And hey, that's a big revenue share for me. Then who the fuck am I? Like seriously, who the fuck am I? Like keep on doing that stuff. But like for me though, like, okay, well, me having an actual purpose in why, because you cannot tell me, honestly, like your purpose in why is to stand in front of a computer and just stare, or stand in front of your phone and stare and just occasionally talk. No way, no how. I mean, there has to be something that you want to do. And I think these people who do these things, and there's a lot of people who are much younger than me, but I think they do realize and find out, oh, this is my actual purpose, not just doing this. And this is where for my stuff, for example, where like, like my purpose is to touch people's lives. And why do I do this? And how can I do it? I do it through my podcast. I do this so people like you, whether you're listening to me here on YouTube or you're listening to me on TikTok or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, at least you can get some inside information. Like, yeah, you can do this shit too. And like, I always try to go in a position where like I tell folks, like, and it's always a thing where, yes, it'll be great. Now, don't get me wrong. I got my share in TikTok where I got my gifts and everything, and that was the journey of it. But like, it's one of the things where just like I mentioned this before in previous podcasts, where just like the sustainability of sending gifts, or the sustainability of trying to be in the position where you're trying to receive the gifts from the clouds, is that sustainable? And I have to tell you, like for me, it's not. Like somehow, some way, it's just like it's gonna get to a point where it's just like. And you can see people's content changes where just like they just ends up just doing that all day, where they initially had something great as in content of like, okay, I'm a person that gives a kind of a podcast, and then what ends up happening, they basically just sit there and just wait for gifts to people, send people gifts to it's not like they're asking for the gifts, that people send it to them, and then that's their content now. But for me, like seriously, for me, it's to inspire people. So like, I'm appreciative when people send me gifts. Don't get me wrong, but just like, as in what I want to do. And again, this is not monetary driven for me. Eventually, I always believe in my heart for even like, for things you do, your purpose, your why, or whatever it is. Once you go for full faith and believing what you want to doing, and you're getting good at it, and you're getting to an advanced level where maybe, who knows, maybe you get to a point where you actually get compensated for it because your stuff is doing really well. So like for me, it's more important is like, let's touch and change people's lives and get to a position where like maybe this message, whether you're here with me or not, maybe this message gets to you one day and just like realize, wow, his knowledge is helping me a lot right now, because it's pushing me for something that's been a huge blocker from me getting to the next level. Right? So like, this is what I tell everyone, just like, at the end of the day, just like, for me, my main goal of all this, honestly, to inspire people like you. Whether you believe in me or not, I don't give it I can kill less, agree to disagree. But that has been my whole gain of this. And just like there's many individuals who have attested to me, like, yes, a lot of stuff that Joe Lobo says, man, is mind blowing. He can say some amazing stuff, and he has influenced me to do some wonderful shit in my life as well. But just like, for example, like that's the thing. It's not about, and I use this phrase a lot in TikTok, it's not about me. It's about you. So like what I can give to you, what I can share to you, and then you basically take the same information, maybe it lights a fire in your ass and you realize like, wow, holy shit, this is what I need to do what I want to do as a purpose. And then maybe something after that, once you actually are successful of your purpose and why, and like, you know, why are you doing the things you're doing now, is maybe you inspire someone else to do the same thing. So it's like, what I would love to see is like that chain reaction effect where like basically, you know, like you are inspiring someone to do something to lend up to them doing through a breakthrough of doing something they always want to do. And it's the same thing where, oh no, that other person, the third person, is now inspiring someone else to say, yes, wow, this is what I needed. I needed this kick in the pants to fucking do the shit I wanted to do. And that's the amazing thing out of this. Like at the end of the day, and it's like, it's one of the things I always have to remind folks. When you look back at, like, when it comes to a time that you have to move forward, right? When you have to move forward, you know what I mean by you're moving forward. When you go beyond this plane that we are right now, all the physical stuff that you've gained, the accolades, the money, the wealth, etc., like, you can't bring that over there. I'm pretty sure you can't, because I'm pretty sure it's already readily available. And your accolades, there's probably many people have tons of accolades, and it's gonna be irrelevant once you get to that point. But what definitely you can bring, in my opinion, is how genuine you are to individuals, how amazing you are to people, to show and influence them to realize that, you know what, this guy has impacted my life some way, somehow. Yes, I may disagree with the certain things he says and does, but for the most part, he has inspired me to do some amazing stuff, to believe in myself. So those kinds of things were just like, you know, the amount of people's lives you touch, that's the stuff maybe you can probably move over and bring to the other side. Like all the other stuff, like the accolades and everything. And this is where I always talk about, like, you know, if you see me in TikTok, I always talk like, you know, accolades are meaningless. Yes. And the reason I bring that shit up is like, sometimes like, I see that the stereotype or the mentality here in the Philippines, sometimes we're just like, if they have a degree, or they are in a profession, or they have all these accolades, they're known, whatever you are, that makes you feel bigger than everyone else, essentially, right? You basically, what ends up happening, I see with certain people, they use that accolades to say how big and powerful they are. But at the end of the day, the same individual, and sometimes it happens where people have huge accolades, the individual behind the accolades is still that person who's insecure, brokenhearted. He's struggling within himself to actually find out what is his purpose and why, and he's using all these accolades to figure out and determine, what am I? And those are the individuals who have, like, you know, all these accolades and why, or just like, you know, or even the money or whatever, and they're still fucking broken. I hate to say it. Yes, I mentioned this before. Like, yes, money, of course. But having a lot of money, you can do a lot of shit. You have a lot of power. You lock a lot of doors that if you didn't have any money, then shit, you wouldn't be able to get into those doors. But if you have the money and resources to get to whatever it's going to be, yes, it unlocks a lot of stuff. But however, yes, it can probably temporarily make you happy. Don't get me wrong. Just with accolades, your professions, your PhDs, your whatever you are, like, they'll probably make you happy in the short term and make you appreciate it. But at the end of the day, if you don't heal the individual yourself, you're just putting a mask on yourself. And that's the truth. If you're not fixing yourself and you just have all these, you're going by like, oh, I'm broken as shit, but let me just buy this stuff to make myself happy. It might make you happy for a short term, or like, you know, trying to go up a corporate ladder with all these things, or trying to be this well-known rhetoric because you have all these accolades up your butt. Yeah, sure. But like, you know, what if you're still that, and mind you, there are probably some individuals, well, who they're perfectly fine with themselves, and they found themselves, maybe their purpose and why is to get all these accolades or be wealthy. But there's still a certain few of individuals who are like, you know, they wear this shit as a fucking mask, and then they can no longer take off the mask. and then they realize it's just like, shit, I'm stuck in this position and I can't get out, and I'm still fucking broken. But however, I have all these resources. I guess I would just keep on going, but I'm still broken. And this is where just like, I always say, like, authenticity weighs heavily on me. Just like where being genuine, being you yourself, the individual who you realize that you know who the fuck you are. You don't need to hide this veil in front of your face so that people can at least find you the police find you acceptable to be your friend. And then sometimes people are just like, wear these veils and masks to do that, to at least no longer be alone. And it's just like, I guess it's sometimes like, mind you, and the reason why I'm talking all this shit is because like, in the previous, I had to do that shit too when I was younger. Where like, at the end of the day, like I had to wear the mask. I had to act a certain way because you know why? I was a moment in place where just like, I was very more insecure. So I had to worry of, okay, well, if I don't act a certain way or I don't lay down to these people or individuals, then I no longer have friends. Whoa, what are these things in my room? Or in the Philippines anyway, by the way. But I mean, and that's where sometimes people like, I remember, and it's funny I mentioned this because I remember there was one individual in one of my corp days. Like he had this story, and I think I know why he's in the path he is. He had this story where he was like I think he was an immigrant from Burma or something like that. And he, obviously he immigrated to the United States to go through school and whatnot. And then what ended up happening is he was telling us stories where he was getting bullied heavily to the point where just like, he put it in himself where it's just like, watch me do the shit I'm going to do. I'm going to go up the corporate ladder and then I'm going to shit on all people. And that's what he did. Yes, honestly, he went to the prestigious schools. I seen his accolades. And then when he got the corporate ladder, all he cared about was himself, making sure his image was great. But when it came to handling people, he treated them like shit. The people that he did not like, he basically just did the worst to them. Even though these individuals, and mind you, the corporate ladder, even though these individuals were probably the most hardworking individuals in everyone else's eyes except that guy, he would do his damnedest to make sure that that person that is doing the greatest job ever, even though he disliked the person, to make him feel terrible to the point that you should quit. I was one of those people where it's just like, I worked my ass off, and then he has the audacity to tell me stuff like the difference is like, oh, you are this and this and that. And then whatever, and then like again, people can believe that, oh, I have to be a certain way, I'm gonna get this, and some people do it because of retaliation and how they got dealt with in the past. And you see it. Like I can see why he went through it. He just went through the accolades to go up the ladder because he felt like, okay, watch me. When I get to these levels, I'm gonna shit on all the people who talk shit to me, and that's what he did. And it's a funny thing about those individuals were like the ones who like went through spite to get to their challenges and like get to their points where like for example they're uber successful. It always finds out they get bit in the ass, and that's ended up happening to that guy. I remember like long before he left our division. He went to another division. It came to a point he got walked out of the office by security guards. So you can tell from there, like what kind of individual he was. We're just like, he wasn't a great person. He wasn't a great individual. I think he was influenced by the lust and greed, not greed, but the lust of like aggression of like, watch me because of what I did before, what happened to me in my previous life, where I was bullied too hard. I'm gonna show the same people who bullied me and made me feel small that I'm bigger than them with all the stuff I'm doing, and watch me do it. And it's unfortunate sometimes when people take that route. We're just like, fuck, man. Like you actually have to get to a position where you like, you go through hate and use your accolades to show I'm bigger than you. What are you gonna do now? And I remember that where like, that's where like also too in my corp life where I kind of woke up and realized like, I'm gonna put my foot down and say no. And I remember I was too timid to be with certain people like that. And then I remember like those hard conversations when that person wasn't listening to me. He was just like, he would tell me some bullshit. And then I was trying to tell him, and all my managers were telling him like, he works hard. Why are you bothering him? And then that same person would just try to shoot me down. So that's a part of the stuff I had to deal with. But I mean, like, again, I'm always a firm believer, like the stuff how you treat people, how you deal with people. Please believe, like the cause. There's a cause effect to shit. So if you treat people like shit, then please believe you're gonna probably receive the same shit also. Because by design of the law of attraction, whatever the energy you're putting in there is the energy you're gonna be putting out. 100%. So you know, I don't know how that guy is, but I remember looking at his LinkedIn page, and I was just like, yeah, he doesn't last that long at jobs. I mean, like, as in tenure, he's still top of whatever he is, but the tenure of how long he's been at each company, it's 1 or 2 years. And sometimes I feel like, again, you know, sometimes I feel like when people don't last long at companies, there's probably a reason why they don't. You know what I mean? There's probably reasons why, like, okay, this is probably a reason why you don't last long. Or maybe people figure out that, you know, your act. You're wearing your mask to act a certain way when you're really not that individual. And that's where, like, I tell folks, so you're just like, you know, that's why I try to avoid, like, and that's why I want to try to avoid, just like, you know, or myself, like, it was like, and there was one point in time in my life where just like, I did that shit where, like, yes, I have the nice cars, I have this and this and that, I can afford this and that, and like show my accolades of like, okay, you know, I have this now, and it defeats all my lack of what I had. But I came to realize the same shit, that does that really give you happiness at the end of the day? Yeah, it can make you have short-term happiness, but does it really make you happy? And that's where, like, I learned about a lot of it myself, where it's just like, even the tough times I got beat down a lot mentally. I mean, there's never been someone that beat me down physically, but like mentally, like, it made me the stronger person I am right now. Or just like, instead of proving and having the retaliation of that person I was talking about, where like, that's just a prime example. We're just like, I wanted to bring that shit up because that's a prime example of people using accolades, but they themselves are still fucking broken. Like, I wish maybe when he was younger, he could at least could have, like, you know, instead of being that victim where, you know, watch me get to, when I get bigger, when all these people who are bullying me, watch me, and I'm gonna shit on everyone else who does the same thing to me. Like, I wish he realized back then, just like, that's not the right path. And this was funny too. I'll end it, and I just thought of something about him. It's like, even when he was like condescending to individuals like that, and he was like, the people, for some odd reason, he felt was a threat to him, he would just treat him like shit. Like, he was an individual who would talk about wealthness, manifestation, meditation. I remember talking about meditation to him one time. Like, I do this every day, and he just brushed it off his shoulder. And he just had a course talking about meditation and finding your why. So like, it was wild, where like, you can tell, like, individual, he didn't really give a shit what he was talking about. It was all a show. I remember too, like, that same person, within the same time he was about to be walked out of the office, he was working with an old person I used to work with, where she was partnering with this guy to, I think he was like the executive sponsor, to do all the events and whatnot. And basically, as you can see, in every single event that he was in every single picture. So it was more of just, you know, like to show that I'm so involved, but does he really give a shit? Probably not. It was all for an image. And then as soon as he got, you know, it's funny too, because like, I remember he was telling my friend, like, oh, you know, without me, none of this stuff's gonna work. I did all this shit, like, you know, trying to show his bravado and this and that. And it's funny, because as soon as he got let go, my friend took it over, and she did perfectly great at it. So it's just like that ego, and that's another thing that kills people, is that fucking ego. Sometimes we're just like, hey man, like, having that big ego, whether it's like because of fear or just like retaliation or not, like, ego doesn't bring you anywhere. It really doesn't. Like, ego doesn't bring you anywhere. Because like, at the end of the day, like, even I'll admit too, I have ego sometimes, issues with ego sometimes, but just like, I think I came to a point where like, the realization of myself, where just like, it's not worth it. Like, ego can give you power and strength for whatever, but making you be the individual you are, where just like, just makes you look like a fucking asshole. That's it. And it comes to like, people like, and I don't know, maybe people love individuals with egos, but like I can tell you that sometimes the people that have high egos are the ones that are dealing with shit, and those are the individuals who are stuck. Like, and I'm not saying too, like, I always mention this to folks when I even talk about like, who I am or what I'm about. Like, I'm at the end of the day an individual that deals with the same shit as you. I'm a human being, right? So at the end of the day, like, I have my own gripes. I have my own things I have to worry about. I also have my own situations I have to deal with. But yet again, the stuff I got brought up to within my life were just like how do I handle these circumstances? I take in a different note because of the fact of just like, yes, I realize and understand that all this stuff that we are dealing with, it's only temporary. And a lot of people's egos are so huge where they realize like, it's it kind of gets clouded in the sense where just they don't realize like, yeah, it's not as bad as you think. You know what I mean? And this is where just like, for example, like I try to go to positions where like I realize, which is like ego is not going to take you anywhere. Like it really won't. I mean, yeah, it may take you to high corporate levels, your egos and whatever, and this and this and that. But you as a person, the individual who's trying to find fulfillment in their life or trying to find what makes you happy, like it won't get you there. And this is where like, for example, I tell people just like, even the situations or circumstances, like even this, there's like, I see a change of certain people where like previously they were so full of their ego and the ego drew fear in their lives. And then the ego did certain things to people's relationships where it just went negative and they would start to put the blame on the other individual when it was really them. And then all of a sudden tides have turned and their ego's lower, and look how the problems, the issues they're dealing with are not even bad at all. So this is why I say like, for example, with ego, it's kind of a curse, I guess you can say, having a high ego. And that's the same thing as just like that, going back to that one guy where just like, trying to prove everyone wrong because he got stepped over so many times. So he used his accolades and his ego to rule his world to get to a position where he's just like where he's at now. Now I wonder, with that individual, maybe he's good, maybe he's great, but I wonder that individual, like personally, his psyche, like how is he really doing after getting all that recognition and those accolades and everything, and being in the position where I'm shitting on everybody. Like I wonder where he is at right now. Is he still? I hope he's better. I really do. But like if he's not, like I hope he finds a solve, because it's terrible when people go into situations where like, like they try to do their mind, whether it's physically or just like they think through their ego they can solve these problems, or they can push people into they feel like they have the power to push people to believe that you must believe what I believe, and they come to realization they don't. You can only control yourself. And then also too, those same individuals, like it's like the ones who are like, who had the huge followings and like because of who they are, like it'll come to a point at one point or another where those same people who are fueling your ego will no longer be there. And that's where like, you realize like, holy shit, like at the end of the day, like none of this matters. What am I with all these people who are fueling my ego and they're no longer there? And that's where I leave it as, or just like, for me and like who I am at this point in my life, like, yeah, I went through a lot of shit, and I tell you guys multiple times on my podcast, like, the letdown, the teasing, yeah, I guess you can say the teasing, the insecurities I had where I feel like, I had to act a certain way because of the fact that if I didn't act a certain way, then who's gonna be my friends, or even being friends or being a best friend of somebody, because like, and all that would change in a quick snap of the fingers, because you actually put your foot down in what you believed in, and then they no longer talk to you anymore. I mean, that shit happened to me, where I realized like where like, I put my foot down in what I believed in, and just like, those people like that you call close friends to you, no longer close friends to you. And this is why it kind of turns back to what I was saying earlier, where just like, when you get to the point where you're progressing in your life and whatever direction it is, like whatever your purpose or why is, like at the end of the day, like people come and go. And I say this multiple times. This is one of the main things I always say in my podcast, where just like, people come and go, and be prepared for that. Because at the end of the day, not everyone's going to follow you, because you know why? It's because they're not at the same mental state that you are in. Like, you cannot, let's be honest here. In terms of growth, like, you cannot be sticking, well, I hate to say it, unless you're comfortable and shit, and you're fine where you're at, and you're at the pinnacle of success at where you're at right now in your life. If you're trying to grow and get to a next level, there are always going to be, it could be a handful, or that can be a lot, depending who you're hanging out with or who you work with. Those same people probably won't be there if your purpose changes. I mean, it's kind of the same thing if you think about, like, when I was working in my corp life, where all these people say, oh, we're family, we're friends, and this and this and that. And then an opportunity happens where you get laid off, like me. And then these are the same people, oh, we're family, we're friends, we'll keep in touch together. And as soon as you get laid off, you hear crickets. Where it's just like, you no longer hear from them anymore. And this is where it's just like, like things come and go. And that's where, like, for example, it's just like when you come to a state where you're growing, or you're going to a position where you're leading to your purpose and why, like, the same people are not, or sometimes will no longer be there. And it's just like it's a realization for some folks who you have to realize and understand that it's completely something you have to get adjusted to. It is normal in a sense, but I don't want to say it like that, because people will get offended. Just like, what do you mean he's fucking not normal? But it's the way of the progression of your life when you get to a growth period, where it's just like a growth spurt, where essentially, like, like where your belief is no longer matching those people anymore. And it's fine that, like, I realized that too in TikTok, where just like there's plenty of people I used to talk to and interact with in a short period of time, and I still regard them. But when I realized they're just like, the stuff they're doing is the stuff I've been doing, is it sustainable enough to do that? And like, is it worth my time? And is it worth, like, what I'm doing in my progression of my own passions and my own purpose and why? No. So that's where, like, ties have changed. We're just like, again, like the same people I regard. And mind you, there are certain individuals I appreciate the journey of getting to know. But at this moment in time, we're just like, is it worth, like, if they're doing something that's total opposite, like they're still doing, like, the stuff that's beyond what you are, is it worth hanging out with them? No. And it's one of the things where just like you as a human, where you're going to try to find your niche to the right people, because at the end of the day, what's important and valuable, what I want to take away from this is just like, when you're growing in your purpose and why, you definitely want people who are going to think the same way as you do, because you know why? Because those same people will understand what you're going through, and they will be the ones believing in what you are and giving you the correct feedback to how to progress to that next step. Because it's often challenging where, for example, it's often challenging where you are you're dealing with something, and then these people who are supporting you have no idea what you're doing, and they have no idea how to even give a legitimate answer, and they're going to go off what they know. So given the sake, you've heard me say this before in my podcast, where I talk about, like, for example, like, there's a difference between people who support you and there's people who believe in you. Yes, people will support you for what you do, but does it necessarily mean that they believe in what you do? Probably not. and that's life, right? You're always never, imagine this would be a utopian society if everyone believed in everything you do, and everyone themselves believed in what they're going to do. Because you know why? All the things, I bet you, through law of attraction, if you believe in law of attraction as I do, yeah, if everyone believed the same way and had the mentality where it's like, I'm in control of my life and I can do my purpose and why, and watch me do it, and they manifest all the shit. Do you see it? Like, the advancements of, like, our world will be probably much better. And then just like going back to that, just like it's difficult where, you know, if people don't understand or believe in what you believe, yes, they're going to go off of, maybe they might go off of their own fear to tell you what their feedback is. And that's why like it's hard and challenging though. So like if you can't relate with certain people, like, you know, it's difficult to even get the accurate response. You know what I mean? So like this is where, like, you know, going through growth, you'll realize it's just like, okay, well, how am I? And it's perfectly fine. I've done this point from time to time, and just like reevaluate shit. Just like, okay, so what am I doing right now in relation to my purpose, my why, like my podcast? Is it really something sustainable? And yeah, recently I had to think about that. I was just like, with certain things, like my affiliation people, I'm still affiliated with certain people, but just like I think about just like, okay, well, you know, I talk about ABC, but they're still talking about DEF. And does it make sense for me to keep hanging out with them? Well, yes, they're still my friends and all, but just like as in like, you know, for example, like, you know, trying to be towards people who believe in the same stuff you, and it may not be the same shit, but believe in a well where they support you in the stuff you need, and because they believe in your stuff, like, you're gonna get that. And that's where you have to just make those, sometimes you have to do those reevaluations. Like I've done it a lot. Like I've done a reevaluation of the people I hang out with. Like, okay, is it worth chasing people? No, because of the law of attraction, you don't need to chase anybody. Those people will come to you. You know what I mean? Those people will come to you. Like, you don't need to chase. Why do you need to chase people? What's the purpose of chasing? Like, it just can sometimes, even chasing will lead to heartbreak, and it just leads to more chasing. Like, I'm a firm believer through the law of attraction. It's just like, you know what? Like, if it's meant to be, it will come towards you without no resistance, no other. As long as you believe in it, the right things will come at the right times. You just gotta trust and believe it's gonna be there. And that's where the same thing too, just like, okay, like I used to do this for individuals where just like, you know, I will courteously, and some people will see it, by courtesy, I always say the same thing. Good morning to people. How are you doing? Even though I don't talk to you regularly and I just send you a fucking text. Like, I do it because like I'm consistent like that. But if it comes to a situation where, like, you know, individuals don't respond to you and you're trying to legitimize a relationship as a friendship to an individual, but it seems like you're just talking to a brick wall, then what the fuck is the point? And sometimes, like, it's funny too, like that point in time where just like I had to take my own advice, because I give a lot of advice. We're just like, yeah, don't chase anybody. If it's meant to, you'll come. And I took that situation. I was like, I'm fucking chasing. I should be listening to myself. And that's what I realized when it came to a realization. It's just like, okay, I am chasing. So I ended that. I allow the right individuals to come in. Look at now. If you allow, and this is the amazing shit too, is like when you allow people to come your way, you will meet the right people. Like what I feel at this point, at this moment right now, who are the people for me? I look at them, it's just like, yes, absolutely. We may be doing different shit, but at the end of the day, like we all fit the puzzle, if you know what I mean, right? We all fit the puzzle. And then just like, you know, there are certain individuals as well, and then the other dynamic is just like, okay, I used to hang out with you because of like for this thing, for this certain event, or this and why, and these people are great individuals, but just like I look at what, like, okay, like the sustainability of shit. Like, is this something I want to do every single day on like on social media, where it's just like I'm sticking to the same groups over and over and over? No. Because how do you even grow through all that shit? And just like, you know, even with the stuff too, just like the sustainability of what I would have to do, it's just like, it's not sustainable at all. It's not. It just comes back to like what I was talking about with sustainability. For example, it's just like the authentic podcast. Well, not authentic podcast, the daily authentics I was doing, where I was doing it Monday to Saturday. You know, the recording for almost the amount of work and effort for 4 or 5 hours to do. And then, mind you, after the 4 or 5 hours was done, we had to go to the city to take care of some business for 2-3 hours, because it's a 2-hour drive, and come back to the province. Was that sustainable at all? No. It was draining. And it's just like, it's like, you come to realize in life, we're just like, dude, does it fit your plan? Because like, if it's not fitting your plan, then why are you forcing yourself to do it? And there's always going to be pointers from the universe where maybe they're going to do the checkpoint where to you just like, they'll might bring the right people to you and just say like, hey bro, like, and it's always shouts out to this guy. I always bring this, there's a guy in TikTok that always comes at the right moments of time where I feel like I elevate for some reason. Like he always comes like, man, dude, like your stuff is great and amazing, man. But you know what? You need a mic. Because you have this great voice, but sometimes I feel people can't hear you. And he was the same individual when I was doing the Daily Authentic, where he would come to me. He's like, bro, like your connection to people and what you're saying to people is amazing. But instead of 10 minutes, can you make it a minute? And that's where the pivot point where came, and just like, I was like, the pivot point, maybe the universe was just brought him there. He's just like, it's time for you to elevate and change the path, which led us to where we are now. So instead of like, for example, doing the Daily Authentic Monday to Saturday, we can just do something like this. We do our podcast, we spend our 2 hours and we talk about things that come up to mind. And it's funny too, because there was something different I wanted to talk about today, but it just turned out to be different. It's just like these. This is how I know I'm a great podcaster, because it's just like I reevaluate what's important for me to talk about. And yes, I was thinking about talking about one thing because of the fact of my, my first introduction here on YouTube. And I thought about like, yeah, I've done this before, but why not do it? But it came to a realization where just like, our conversation's not leading towards it. Well, it kind of is, but it's not totally might be the right time or to do it. You know what I mean? So that's perfectly fine. We're just like, for me, I have to reevaluate and just say, okay, how do we move forward? How do we get to the next part? And that's how you grow. You adapt. You figure out what's working, what's not. And it's just like, going back to like the sustainability piece, like that guy. I remember that guy. He popped up recently in TikTok. I think he was going through stuff in his life and he just disappeared. So he's going like in and there, but I see him from time to time. But like he would always come in the right moments in time. Like when it came to like me purchasing my first mic, and then we're troubleshooting how to see how it works. He was there. But even when moments of time where he's like, bro, like you should do this, it's gonna better you at the end of the day. Like it was like the universe sending like a person just saying, or individual, a source to say, bro, think about this. Here's the pivot point. What are you gonna do? And this has been the same thing too, just like the growth of all of this. We're just like, starting off, and I always have to bring back my past, my upbringing. We're just like, we started off with a phone and a speaker playing music. And I remember being outside in the province, at my province house, where I had like a little, not a balcony, but I had like a outdoor area where it was like I had an awning on top where I can look outside, and I would sit there and do my podcast. Like I do a live for like 30 minutes on TikTok, but what I would do is play like music from my speaker and just put it towards my phone so you can hear it. Oh man, when you heard like the lives, I'm like, holy shit, I sound terrible. The music sounds terrible, and that's the evolution that led to other stuff. Buying me a mixer, buying better stuff, buying things, positioning, then realizing, oh crap, I need better lighting so I look good, I look better, and look presentable. And just like it's like going through like what works and what doesn't work. Or if you need to grow, then, or you need to improve, then this is what you should start thinking about. And it's just like, the evolution of all this stuff. Like, yeah, I didn't need to buy a PD400X. Like this is, again, the mic I'm using is a Mono PD400X. This is probably their top line mic before you get to the next echelon of like expensive mics from Shure or Rode or whatever. But this is a good quality mic. Did I really need it? Because I had a PD200X. It worked perfectly fine. But it's one of those moments in time where the universe will show you like, hey, I'm going to drop this in your lap. What do you think? And then it's either you take it or not. And I went to a position of perspective, just like, okay, is this going to help me in the long run? And I'm like, probably. So like, why not fucking buy it? And I did. So like, it's just like the growth of all stuff. It's just like that's where like even like where the people you hang out with, where like the reevaluation of like, okay, is it worth spending time with these people the whole day and just sitting there and doing nothing? And sometimes I would just hang out there and just be, because I want to be with my friends. People are my friends and everything, but it's like, look at like, okay, the productivity of shit. And this is where the thing of the balance of like just like hanging out, and it's perfectly fine. Again, there's a lot of individuals who like they do stuff and they're successful at it, and I'm just like, hey, to each his own. You don't need my response. You're fucking successful at it. So like even if I say the shit I'm saying, it's relevant to you because you're doing your own path. You're blazing your own path. So congratulations to you. But for me though, it's just like, is it worth it? And then now I look at it as like, yeah, it's not sustainable. And that's why, like, for example, like the things I'm doing right now, like if I look at how I started in the beginning, like with certain people, like for I think I was like I've known them for at least like these certain people for like almost like a month, 2 months, 3 months. And then where it's now, it's different because of the pivoting I've done. We're just like lining up certain people, or the realization like I don't have the time to hang out with someone for the rest of the day because there's other stuff in my life that I have to do. You know what I mean? Like for example, I remember those times in qualms, like within this moment of time, like I was going through stuff with my parents. Were like, why is he always upstairs? And this is the same time where I was hanging with people like in TikTok for like, you know, for 4 or 5 hours, just hang out and, you know, doing support from them and enjoying their content, blah, blah, blah. But like, it's like, you know, the impact of like your own life itself, where that gets impacted. And it's just like, okay, well, like there goes the balance again. I have to reevaluate the balance. And I didn't realize that shit where like, you know, it got even to realization and stuff when it came to be like, I was the one man show where my brother was in the United States and it was just me here taking care of my parents for 1 month. And this is where I was telling everyone like back on TikTok, I was like, yeah, things are going to change a little bit because I have responsibilities to take care of. And then what it ended up being is like, yeah, the relationships of those same individuals, when it came to realization of like the stuff like I was doing, we're just like, is this sustainable? No. And then just funny, it's interesting too, is like the people, I met some amazing people within that time as well, but just like come to find out that, you know, there are reasons, and I just go off of this. If the universe puts me in a position where I no longer can talk to them, I'm not gonna question it. I'm really not. I think there's reasons why things happen and occur, and it's because of to protect you and whatever your path is, because the universe is realizing that if you start interacting with this person more, this is going to derail you what you're going to do. And this is where just like, you know, I just praise whatever happens. If like, for example, even if this happens to individuals now, where just like the people I meet now, if for somehow, some way, like the conversations change or whatever, like, yeah, it would suck, let's be honest, but it's like the most part, just like I'm gonna bless what the universe is gonna provide me. Seriously, like I have to bless what the universe provides, because they provide, or the energy, whatever you want to call them, whether it's God is giving you what you're saying you want, even if you believe it or not. So like I'm not gonna question, like if something, like I'm not gonna question, even though there was a situation like it happened recently. I joined in Facebook a it was a podcaster group channel, and that was all I did was gave myself an introduction of who I was. I talked about the equipment I used and I made some posts, and came to find out I got suspended. I was at a point where I was gonna message the group owner, the group owner, and then came to find out I couldn't message him because he turned it off. So what I do, I just left the group and I just didn't question it. The universe is probably telling me, nah, you shouldn't go there. So when the universe gives you opportunities or senses where just like you feel like, you know, like you probably shouldn't do this because it might derail you to go somewhere else, I'm just gonna bless it and just move forward. And this is where, like, you know, going back to like what I was talking about, the reevaluation of life and reevaluation of what's important, and understanding, do these still fit your puzzle? Like, you know, do you want to proceed or not? And there's gonna be a moment at times where there's gonna be even curveballs. Yeah, it may seem like these are huge curveballs, but maybe they just fit in a way that you should just give a chance to it. Then yeah, I'd be welcome to it. Like even with like relationships, like I always think about relationships. Like eventually one day we'll come to a point where we have a relationship with a significant other. But at the end of the day, I don't chase that. I let it organically happen. We're just like, if you keep on chasing those people, like you're just gonna continue to chase them. And I always believe too, it's just like always the right individuals will happen. Yes, you have to put some work into it, but like at the most part, like I have this thing where like for me, for relationships, it's just like, even if it's it's the right female, like you're still gonna go through the ringer, but let me get to know you as a friend. I'll be honest with you. Again, we're adults as well. We're adults. So if we decide to do some moving furniture, I mean, at the end of the day, like we're adults. But however, everyone starts as friends to me. Like I have to become your friend first to understand who you are, because like I think it's kind of a mechanism for myself, for my growth of where I became from. We're just like, I don't want to waste my time with bullshit. I really don't. I don't want to waste my time where it's just like, okay, I put all this effort into it and it just blows up in my face. Why not be the individual who thinks about it and just like, okay, let me just get to know who you are, and maybe get to know you goes really fast. But however, at least there comes to a point where just like, at least I'm putting you in perspective as a friend, because I always feel like, it's a weird cliche of like when people, even like the generations after me, we're just like, like I'm millennial. I think I'm millennial Gen X, but basically the Gen Y or Gen Z, when they hear just stuff like about friend zone, or talk about, and they talk about some weird relationship stuff, we're just like, oh, when people say this, you're in this zone. I'm just like, what the fuck does this shit mean? I mean, for me, honestly, it's just like, I rather I get more validation just to get to know people first and understand who they are. And that's how you determine if they're going to be a right fit or not. If anything, right? If it's meant to be that you're going to have a relationship with somebody, and this is my opinion, to each his own, what other people believe, that's you. But like, I firmly believe that if the right person does come, then they will come. But it comes down to, like, for me, I know it's a mechanism for me. Like, I need to get to know you as a friend. Like, I don't want to be, I think it's also because of the fact of the situation I'm in right now, where just like, yes, I'm in building mode in the Philippines to make this a sustainable living. And it's just like, I hate to be put in a situation where just like, if I get in a relationship with a female here in the Philippines, where it's just like, oh my God, it's going to be so much work on top of the shit I have. Like, I don't want to do that shit. I don't want to do it. I'd rather have someone who, that's even the same thing too. I do not want to be in a position where like, and I hate to say it, like, where I have to lay down and be something I'm not. I don't want to do that shit. Like, honestly, I'd rather be, and this is the same thing I expect from the other females, like, be you. As you allow me to be myself. Like, be you. I'll accept you for the person you are. You don't need to lay down to me. You don't need to act a certain way. Be yourself. And then I will be myself with you. Respect the stuff I do. Respect the things I do. I respect the same thing as you. Even if it comes out to be like this, you're in a situation where like the individual does some wild shit. But however, like for some way, somehow, something's telling you that you should just consider it. But like, that's what things you run into. But for the end of the day, like for any relationships for me, like it's just like, I need to get to know you as a friend. And then that's why sometimes like I go those spurts where like I'm out in public, where I just like go to the observing mode. And I think this is normal shit for Aries. We're just like, we always go to like observing mode, where we are completely quiet and we're just paying attention to what's around us. It may not be to certain individuals, but it could be to other stuff, other stimuli that's in the environment. But we always are tuning ourselves to certain things and be, wow, this is a nice place. Like I did that the last time, we're just like, wow, okay, this is an amazing place. This is cool. And then some people are probably thinking about, like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Just looking at the walls. But like, I mean, even like individuals, like listening to like people talk and seeing like what's their character, like it's trying to find out who you are. And it's the same thing with talking to people on the phone or getting to know them as friends. They may sound like I'm an asshole, but it's just like, it's just a design thing for me. We're just like, I just want to get to know you. Yes, again, we're adults. Things happen. You know, I'm in my 40s. Of course, things gonna happen. so like, if would I ever turn stuff down? Let's be honest here. If you got asked to do certain things that involve moving stuff, are you really gonna say no? Unless there's something that is preventing you to say no, then I understand. But are you really gonna say no? And that's where just like, you know, yeah. As adults, right? I mean, talking about 21 and up adults, yeah, or I don't know what's legal age as adult. At the end of the day, like that is naturally going to happen. But if you think for the right individuals who are going to be you're connecting to, for me, it's just like I need to get to know you as a friend, like just making sure like I'm not wasting my time. And that's the truth of the matter of all this. It's just like, I don't want to waste my time because I feel like, and that's the thing too, it's just like, I have this thing in my back, even though sometimes I feel like people, yes, as Aries, we get fucking misunderstood so many fucking times. And it's ridiculous. Like and maybe it's because of like the coldness sometimes you see, or the quietness you see, or just like the aloneness you see sometimes from people from Aries. But they want to, like for me, I appreciate my being alone by myself sometimes, where I call this my office, where I'd rather be in my office just chilling, because part of it is because, you know, we're in a Filipino house where it's not as big as the United States house. It's pretty damn small. So if I go downstairs, we're all cramped downstairs. So where we're gonna be, I'm gonna be in my office, my bedroom, which just has a desk and loft, because it's more relaxing up here. This is why I meditate as well, or I get into my creative mode of the shit I do and whatnot, right? So like, you know, I get to those moments of time where we're just like, I get observant, I get quiet, or sometimes, depending on the circumstance, I'll be loud as fuck, and we'll have a time in our lives, whatever the circumstance is. But it's like, that's me. So like, you know, it's just like we go to like, it's time, all the shit ties in together, like the reevaluation of like your life and who you are and who you be. Like they're trying to figure out if you want to get with this female or male or whatever you are into. Like for me personally, maybe because it's just the age. I think it's the age, because, you know, I'm in my 40s. Yes, I don't want to waste any of my fucking time. Because, yeah, you know how much time is lost when you find the wrong person? Yes, people will tell me, but Joe, how are you ever going to find out? Well, shit. I'll find out somehow if I get to know, if I'm getting to know you as a friend, like, of course I'm going to find out if you're the right fit or not, or you just stay a friend. And I think as adults, right, it's the same thing. As adults, if you really are a fucking adult, then you would enjoy those conversations where you talk about the next level with your significant other, say your potential significant other, say, okay, what do you think? Because like, you're doing the service, even for the other individual, you're doing the service yourself. You can't even tell your feelings. Like you need to be upfront with your feelings. You need to be upfront to who you are, because at the end of the day, like if you're not and you're hiding everything, then all those things that you should be doing will never come to pass. It's the same thing as like law of attraction, right? Like if you think about, you can't just think about, sometimes it does happen, you know, like it does happen where you just think about it and poof, it appears. But for the most part, for the things you want to do, your goals and action things, there's some you have to do. There's some things you have to do. Like, and that's the same thing too, is like you're putting actions to your words, because at the end of the day, you can talk too much. You can talk a storm and talk to a wall, but it's the action, the do, that gets you to the next level or gets you to the next step. That's the difference of all this. We're just like there's a big thing between talking and doing. And I feel like sometimes I'm a doer, because talking so much, even it's funny I'm saying this because I'm talking to you in a podcast and I'm talking to you right now, but like at the end of the day, we're just like, yeah, doing it, just fucking do it. And it's just like, you know, all this stuff is all relative, what I'm talking about, just like the reevaluation and making sure things are working, making sure if there's certain things that you're doing, are you on the right path? Like, or even like, thinking 10 steps ahead to figure out, okay, how do I solve this issue right now to get me to next step? Yes, you're gonna go through things in this life, and that just, and encourage you, just like the uncomfortability of these things that you have to deal with. Like there's some entertainment you'll get out of it, and maybe you'll get you'll get growth out of this, where you come to realize like these complex situations you're dealing with, like you'll figure out like, oh, it's not as bad, because you know why? Once you figure that part out, there's even more complicated shit you have to figure out. And then you got to just find a solution to it. This is where you get the uncomfortable. You get to that uncomfortable, and you break the uncomfortable, and then find out, realize it's not as bad. And then you are looking at yourself 6 months later like, holy shit, I'm from there, I'm to here. And there's like, talk about my progression and stuff. And just like, I look quality as in what I'm looking at here on YouTube. I am pretty much those people I've watched almost 10 years ago or I still watch today, where they're actively broadcasting on YouTube and on Twitch, doing the same shit, or even TikTok. I'm fucking doing the same thing. Yes, maybe I don't have all the huge viewers at this moment here on TikTok. I mean, then on YouTube, but like shit, time. And that's the main part. And that's the main important thing too. Is just like time is fucking important. Like time as in, being consistent in something. Yes, you may see the first time you do it like, oh, what the fuck, there's only 2 people or no one listening to me or watching me, what the heck's going on? But at the end of the day, like, one thing is going to come to a means to an end, where you realize that the stuff you're doing is going to pay off. And it all comes down to like, just being consistent and just do it as much as you can, because of the fact that, one, you perfect that skill set to be better. And then also, what I believe with the consistency and the stuff that you do, it's going to attract people towards you. And that's why I say, like, I'm thinking about that individuals I met yesterday, where this is on TikTok, where she was asking me like this question of what makes you be the person you are. And then I think when I was telling all the stuff and what I believe in and who I am, and then mind you, this is me playing through video games, and I'm kind of doing a podcast there because people were asking me questions, and then I came to a realization where just like, I see that I've inspired someone to believe in themselves. And that's where the stuff I love, where just like when I'm doing the shit that is fucking difficult for me, and then people see the stuff, the progression I'm doing into my podcast or my things I do in TikTok, where I'm playing video games or making the effort to make this look better. Like, that's the amazing shit out of this, when people realize, wow, he's fucking doing it. He's fucking doing it. Why is he not have the volume that these people have? And like, I don't care, because at the end of the day, I believe that one way or another, whether it's 5 people or 10 people or 1 million people, I firmly believe in billions watched. That one way or another, this is going to get to the hearts of those individuals who are just like going through the most roughest times in their lives. And they came to realize they found someone like me, Joe Lobo, with a live here on YouTube or a podcast here on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts or TikTok, what have you. And it inspires them to believe. And this is where sometimes I feel like, with all the craziness that's happening in our world, let's be honest, there's a lot of crazy shit that's happening in our world. We need more people at the end of the day to be believers. Have people who are doing the passion and just spreading the knowledge to inspire. Like what's that guy? You know I'm talking about, the African American guy. His last name is Goggins. You know what I'm talking about, where the guy, I think he's a Navy SEAL, but he is super amped up and motivates you in that. We need more people like that to be more motivating, to believe and tell people like me, like my own ways and my own experience, to tell you, wake the fuck up and do the shit you should be doing, because at the end of the day, like, you're going to be so much better at going that path. You know what I mean? Where instead of just staying the norm and staying the comfortability, which, yeah, sometimes the norm and comfortability will be perfectly fine. Let's be honest with you. Like, it's perfectly fine to be comfortable if that's what you want to be. Like, if it's like, if you have no qualms, if problems or concerns, then keep on doing that. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're a dreamer and you feel like there's something bigger for me, and that's the thing about me, it's always felt when I was younger that I was like, I feel like shit, man. Like, I feel there's something I need to do. I feel that there's a purpose for me in this life right now where I should be doing something. And it's always been like, even through the trials of my life where I felt like, you know, when I was at the lowers of my low, and I'm just like questioning myself, like, what the fuck am I supposed to be doing here? And then it's funny where it's just like, it comes to a position where it's just like, okay, holy shit, like, look where we are now. We're trying to be in a position where we inspire people, like inspire people in different ways. One, me going in my 40s to another country, going out of from the comfortable spaces. Even it is crazy out there, I'll be honest, in the United States, like coming from the comfortable United States where everything is readily available to you. Like, you can go within 5 minutes to buy the stuff you need right now, versus here in the Philippines it takes maybe a week or 2 weeks. That part of comfortability. And then, you know, coming and then basically too, like, everything's in the access of your hands, literally. Like, you can get stuff in the matter, if it's not in a store, you probably get delivered to you in 1 hour or 2 days at least. So, like, the comfortability of that, but going to another country and realizing, like, holy shit, like, there's some adjustments you have to do. You no longer have those comfortabilities. I remember when when I was in preparation and back in March 2024, the preparation of moving here to the Philippines, I remember going to Costco. You know what a Costco is, a big box store. I'm pretty sure, hopefully you do. Going to Costco and buying body wash and deodorant, doing all this stuff. And then my brother was like, why are you buying all this stuff? This is in the Philippines. But it was just like, it's American brands. You don't find that. I was doing that because of fear and uncertainty. I was like, holy shit, they're not going to have this. Yes, I'll be honest. In the province of Bohol, they still don't have it. But you can get other shit that will work fine. Like, even like deodorant. Like, there was a specific deodorant that I was using back in and I have it now because in Cebu there's a big box store called S&R that has Costco related stuff or American stuff. So at the end of the day, like, I have that necessity again. But while in Bohol, those things aren't available anywhere. Even if you go to there's a place called Watson's, like, you can go there, but they don't have certain things that are US brand. Like Gillette, I use Gillette deodorant, or even Neutrogena body wash. That's not readily available here in the province of Bohol. So, like, I have to wait if I go to Cebu and go to S&R and then buy the stuff there. That's like adjustments in there. Well, I made plenty of fucking adjustments. Like, even like the adjustments, like, I'm getting out of the comfort zone of just like, man, having no cash when you're stuck to your phone because your phone has a wallet of all your cards, and you just do this all day, Apple Pay or whatever mediums of transaction of monetary funds you do. But like basically, you know, going to the Philippines and like realizing you need to have a lot of stuff on you, cash, because if you don't have cash and you're in the province, no one has cards, then what do you do? And that's the stuff that I had to learn and figure out here, because it's like, holy shit, like you have to adapt. And it's like, and this is where like, just like, you know, and why am I saying this? Why am I talking about me going from the United States to the Philippines? Because there's probably individuals who are trying to think about the same situation as well. It's like, can I fucking do it? Can I go out of living in California and going to a country that's in Asia or in the Philippines? Can I really do it? And they're probably looking at YouTube right now and they find me. They're like, oh shit, there's Joe Lobo. He lived in the United States for almost 40 plus years and he's in the United States now. And look, and he's not in the United States, he's in the Philippines right now. Look at him, he's doing fine. And that's what the purpose of, like, you know, that's also the purpose of my podcast too. Finding expatriates or finding Philams or finding whoever you are. Like, you're coming out of your comfort zone, living in where you are, and you're trying to go to another country and you're fucking scared as shit. Then you find someone like me that gives you an inspiration. Like, don't be scared. Yeah, you're gonna go through some adjustments. Like, especially in the Philippines, there's a fucking adjustment from the United States to the Philippines. Because, like, one, water is the biggest adjustment. I'll be 100%. Water was the biggest adjustment of all this stuff. We're just like, you know, obviously. That took me a year to get used to. That took a year. And then all the other stuff, even the weather was an adjustment. We're just like, oh my God, when coming here in 2024, and we came, I think, in the moment where Philippines was the hottest. Like it was the hottest for a long time. Those there on a dry spell. It was the hottest. And then like it was the unbearable heat. But over time you get adjusted to it. Over time you get adjusted to the water. Like remember talking to my doctor. I was like, how can I easily be able to start drinking water? Should I just take all the filtered water and just drink it? And he just gave me he bursted out with a nervous laugh. He's like, oh, you're going to the hospital. so stuff like that. But I mean, it comes with a time. And then again, I'm only saying this shit because I know there's probably people who are trying to go on YouTube right now, or going on TikTok, or trying to find something on Spotify or Apple Podcasts to find that liftment to say, okay, is the stuff I'm thinking about or doing, is it worth it? Like, is it worth it at all to do it? Like, would I succeed? And then you come across me where it's just like, a Filipino born in America who's, in his 40s living in the Philippines. I've been here for 2 years now. I'm doing perfectly fine. Yes, there's battles and challenges I've had through all this, but I'm still here. I'm still thriving. There's a lot of things where we're rebuilding. It's just the same thing as my podcast. Yeah, maybe I use this again. Like my cousin said, like I was talking about like a last podcast where like, you use these podcasts for therapy, huh? And I was like, yeah, I do. Sometimes, because it's just like, it's through, I get the therapy from like, I know that these will go to certain people. Yes, there's probably a majority of the people that will look at this, and I seen it when I put my stories where they swipe through it immediately. They're like, what the fuck is this shit? Yeah, they're probably people who just want something to be relaxing because they had a terrible day. They don't want to listen to something who's like so inspirational, I guess. But there's a certain few individuals, the niche, where they're like, man, I just need some inspiration, God or universe, and they land on my short, or they land on my podcast, and they found out, wow, this is what the shit I need. And then it turns into a catalyst, or just like, okay, well, I'm gonna follow this guy and see what he's talking about, because he might give me more inspiration of what it is. So that's what we're just saying. Like, I do that for inspiration. This is why I do my podcast. I do it for, yes, I gear this towards the people in the Philippines, because like there's a lot of people in the Philippines I know that where they feel like they're stuck, where they have to do the things they do because of the fact of their relationship, family dynamic, where you must provide and just give up everything. Because if you don't give up everything, then how are we going to survive? That the fear factor of just like, you better do something now or we're not going to survive. And then those same individuals are the ones who are just like, they have the great gifts, or they have a wonderful purpose and why, but they just give it up because like they feel that it's out of their control and they have to do what's immediate temporary fix. So yeah, and this is where I use that dual phones for the people who are finding out if they can live in another country. Can you do it? Here, you probably can talk to me. And then also too, just like the individuals who are stuck in a rut, or they feel like they're trapped in this shell that they don't want to be in. Like, let's be honest here, just like unless you love working for a corp job, and I know there's some people who love it. They love the accolades, they love the progression, they love this, they love all this and this and that, working for a prestigious company. I have a cousin, I'll be honest, there's a cousin who he's proud of working at these big companies. Like big companies, if you know what I mean. But it's just like, yeah, that's great enough. For some people that's great, but for me it's relevant. And then just like, I think it's because of my own experiences. It's just like, you get treated, at the end of the day, you can have so much pride in what you do, but like so much pride in the job you do or the company you work for. But until you get laid off or they say we no longer need you, then you find out what's the reality of it. And then going back to like, the purpose of why I do these for, like, especially in the Philippines, is just because I know there's people who, like, I've inspired many in the Philippines where just like they say like they needed this, like where people feel literally stuck. This is like going back to TikTok, where it's like TikTok is especially for TikTok Philippines, it's a place where people can get together and talk about their qualms or problems or issues, and they will find solutions or find people who are in the same situation they are, and they can join groups and become friends. And that's what the thing I think of all that for TikTok, where it's taken for me, where just like people who use it for the, they use it for the community aspect. And that's why I'm on TikTok, where we are doing that thing. Like in the beginning, I was hanging out with tons of people, and then it came to being the focus of just hanging out with certain. Now it's just hanging out with certain people, but focusing on my own thing, focusing on my podcasts of all this. Where it's just like, at the end of the day, we're just like, if we want to get to somewhere, to pinnacle steps, we got to do the certain shit to do. Like, for example, and this is like, for example, what we're doing right now. And this is where it goes back to the people, the dreamers in the Philippines. That's kind of the reason why, the second purpose of why I'm doing these podcasts is like, for the dreamers in the Philippines, they feel like they're stuck. And then they look at these, even though the biggest challenge of me if here in the Philippines is just like, I'm speaking English to you, but predominantly everyone is speaking Tagalog. And this is why, like in TikTok, you'll see it that I have a, a translator. Here on YouTube, I think it automatically does the translation, so you can put the CC on, closed caption on, and you can hear it. On TikTok, there's no native app that you can do that, so I had to third party that and use an app. But like, yeah, I mean, that's the biggest challenge in it. Imagine having to talk to people in English, but they don't really fully comprehend your English. Yes, they understand you, but do they fully comprehend you? Probably not. So that's where, like, for example, like, I believe this for those people in the Philippines, where it's just like the ones in the Philippines who feel like they're struggling or stuck, or they feel like they can't get out. And I hope that one day maybe they've run and stumble across these on YouTube, or they stumble across me in TikTok or whatever avenue they're in, Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and they realize like, wow, this guy is amazing. Because like, I always felt like, people will get inspired of the shit I talk about. We always talk about the same stuff, but this is because of a benefit for you. It's a benefit for you to listen to this and just take your life in your own hands to progress. And that's the most important, beautiful thing out of this. It's just like, it comes down to, it's really on you. It's on you to do the things, the steps, the whatever it is to get to that next level. No one's going to put you in the position you are going to be in unless you put yourself in there. And just like the same thing is like, the people I think about examples of, like, this is sometimes I feel in this dynamic, it's like, people who get lost and shit, and they have this wonderful gift or this wonderful purpose, and they get lost and they totally forget about it. And it comes to a point where, like, yes, they get to the position of they're full of accolades and they lose the identity of themselves. So at least be like, I can think in my mind, and that could be totally fucking wrong. I don't know. I could be off base. But at the end of the day, like, where I generally put these towards individuals who I know they can succeed and listen to my words and get inspired to not be afraid. It's like, because like, I've run this a lot of people, like there's a lot of people a couple people I ran to and like in TikTok where just like they told me they're like, I'm happy on this camera, but behind me I'm broken, or I'm going through this stuff, I'm going through all these things in my life, and like, it's not going great, and I just feel like it's maybe I should just make that decision, if you know what I mean. So like it's like that, where just like, and I have to reassure these people, just like, no, it's temporary. You're bigger than you think you are. Like, you should, like, you should think bigger. You should do this, you should do that, and realize that all the stuff you deal with sometimes it's temporary. And it brings out like one of my friends I met at TikTok, where she was going through a lot of shit, where like something must have happened where, like, I think she was trying to, like, I guess, like, she had savings or whatnot, and then I guess the same time, like, I guess there is a purchase of some property or whatever that she had to, I guess, somehow, some way, her savings went towards that. And then she was in transition state between jobs, and then some assurances of what was going to happen, as in, making sure the revenue was there. It wasn't there. So I know she was struggling for a month. I know she was going through shit, but like, it was one of the things I just had to reassure her. It's going to be okay. It's just temporary. Just hang in there. And this is why I always try the avenue, even with like the same thing when I talk about friends, like constantly keeping in check with them, making sure they're okay. Even though we don't talk all frequently, I can at least text you and just say, are you okay? Is everything good? Good morning. How's everything? because I genuinely care. This is where the genuineness of me is coming out, where it's just like when I talk about authenticity of myself is coming out, because of the fact of, I genuinely care for individuals. I genuinely want people to succeed or find their passion and become who they should truly be at the end of the day. Not this facade of like, oh, I have to act a certain way because if I don't, I'm not gonna fit in. No, I want people to believe in like their purpose and why, and understand that at the end of the day, yes, I'm gonna be this fucking thing that I want to be, and watch me fucking do it and prove people that yes, I fucking did it. Look at me. In a less ego-y type of way, if you know what I mean. But like at the most part, like empowering yourself to be in the position where it's just like, I fucking did it. And that's the main takeaway of all this. It's just like, at least be in the position where you firmly are in a position where you're empowering yourself to get to the next level. You're empowering yourself to get where you thought those heights would never be there, but you fucking did it. That's the purpose of this podcast, is to find people like that. Twofold. Maybe there's a person right now in the United States who needs a kick in the pants to realize, yes, it's getting rough here in the United States and I want to go to another country, but I'm too damn scared. And look at my age. Well, shit. You'll find Joe Lobo, who is in another country 6,000 miles away from where he was in the comfortability of California Bay Area. And he lives in the province of Bohol. And I am fucking thriving and doing great here. Like there's still, and like it's funny too, because my brother made a comment. I was like, yeah, you need to go back to the United States with your mom and dad. And I'm just like, I was excited, but not excited, because I feel like there's a lot of shit that we still have to do here in the Philippines. Like for me, like yes, I'm looking forward to going back to the United States, but just like it's, I don't know, it's it's like yeah, I want to go there, but it's just more just like I feel like there's a lot of stuff I still need to do here. And there's the same path of people, like, even like I take back, that one individual I met yesterday on my live when I was playing video games, where she was like, she got fucking inspired of the stuff I was talking about. And just like, she was the same thing. I think she was like trying to go live on TikTok as well, but she was afraid. That's why I got from that. And I was like, no, empower yourself to believe you can do it. Get out. Like the biggest thing that will fail you from shit is because you're not confident in yourself that you can fucking do it. But once you get to a point that you just fucking, you just say fuck it, I'm gonna do it, and you're consistent at it, that's where the growth happens. That's where confidence builds. That's where like you start accomplishing wonderful shit. And that's where just like the belief will set in. And I remember she's like, oh my god, thank you, like, thank you for like relighting something. And that's where I take away from all this stuff, right? I take away where just like, that's what the purpose of all this, everyone, is like why I do these podcasts. Yes, it's therapy for me in the sense, but it's the same thing too. It's just to inspire people like you. The people who are watching this, yeah, there's a handful of people I see you watching. There's like 4 or 5 people watching this right now. But just like, at the end of the day, like this is the purpose of you. Maybe and I always say it. There are reasons why you're here. And maybe it's because you have to get something out of this to realize you're bigger than who you think you are. And maybe that thing is me. Maybe even the folks after we end this live, I repurpose this twice. So you're going to see the live version on YouTube, but also you're going to see the one I post that is essentially the same shit for the podcast. But like, I mean, for the most part, like there'll be probably people who will take it. These are fucking long, but you know what? It's the value of the quality of that's in these things that will push people to realize like, shit, I can be like Joe Lobo. I can be Joe Lobo and go to another country and just be like, it'll be scary as shit, but like at the end of the day, like you're fucking doing it. Or you're gonna be like individuals like, I want to be like Joe Lobo. He feels the energy I am, which is like I'm stuck, or I just like people don't believe in my stuff, or people are bashing me because like they don't believe in my stuff and they just make fun of me. I'm like, this is not until I met this guy where it's just like, wow, he's inspiring. And that's why I take away from this. Like I'm thinking of all these people I met, like even the one from I met in, through here in TikTok, and she lives in Vegas, and she says like, my friend before, there's another guy, I met her mutually from a friend I met he also in TikTok that he's from SoCal, but they're mutual. They're them two are mutual friends, and he had to warn her just like, yeah, this guy is like Doctor Professor X. He can talk his thing. He has a silver tongue. But just like and then I came to realize, when I met her, I was just like, holy shit, she's basically me. Like, she's very spiritual as well. She's into tarot cards, and then the mindset is there. We both feel the same way. I think and I always joke around that she's like the female version of me. And it's funny because I stopped by. I think she took a break for family because it's New Year's and everything. She took a break for TikTok, and I saw her, and I was like, holy shit, what's up, blah blah blah. And then she made a comment like, we need to collab. I don't know when, but we need to collab this year. I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. I'm always game. But just like, those are the things, like the ones that you realize, the ones who you inspire them somehow to believe like, yeah, fuck, we should do, like, I can do this shit. And that's where, like, at the end of the day, like, that's where I get my appreciation of, like, where, if I'm lighting a fire in someone's fucking ass and it's provoking them to do something or provoking a thing, that I think I just completed my job. That's worth so much more than fucking money. I will say that's so much more than fucking money, where it's just like, I have enabled someone to fucking say, yes, let's fucking do it. I'm gonna take initiative and fucking do it because this guy said I can do it. Like, who knows? I don't know if I'm like a fucking Tony Robbins of shit, or like a what his name is, this guy, this Goggins is his last name. You know what I'm talking about, the bald African American guy. I think he's a Navy SEAL, but he's a fucking motivator. I always see myself as a fucking motivator who inspires people, and this is what I'm doing right now. I'm inspiring you in a way where it's just like, yes, I can fucking do this shit. And those are the people you need in your lives. Yes, I can be dense as fuck. I understand that. I can be I don't have time for like small talk. Maybe a little bit, but I mean, for the most part, like, small talk ain't my game. But if you're into the long game of talking and just like understanding, like, having deep discussions, for me, those are the ones, like, wow, those are the shits I like. Like, even when it comes to significant, I hope the next significant other loves deep talks as well, because, like, fuck, you get to know a lot about a person who goes through deep talks. Like, deep talks. And then, it's not, I mean, I'm not talking about, like, again, I always have to reemphasize this shit, but it's not like talking like this every fucking day. Yes, you can't do this every fucking day. Like, this is the same thing with my podcast. I remember at the beginning, I used to try to do this podcast every fucking day, but no, I can't. And this is why I went down to, like, let's do it once a week, because of the fact of it's hard to do this every fucking day. I was trying to do the cadence for TikTok where it's just like, I'll go in the morning, go to night. Nope. I can only do this once a day, and this is why I break up to my shit to different shit now, where it's like I sing sometimes, or I'll play video games most of the time, and then I'll do once a week the podcast. So this is the same stuff. This is how I am. But, like, yeah, at the end of the day, it's just like I love where I'm at this point in life. I love the progression I'm being. I'm grateful. I have talked about. You can see as I rehearse, I'm saying this in every other podcast for the last like 3-4 weeks now, where we're just talking about, like, loving what I'm seeing, my progression of where I'm at, and it's just amazing. Just like the stuff I'm dealing with right now with, like, okay, I'm running this and live on YouTube right now, and I'm through OBS, and by written, like, I talk to you my gripes about, like, what I want to do with both TikTok and here at the same time, but I can't because there's that there's the limit part I'm dealing with. Now, eventually, hopefully, one will meet the path where we will eventually be like this, where I don't have to worry about that shit. Whether it's me getting a brand new computer, or it's going to be a way where there's going to be a path open to get to what I want. Because I believe that what I choose to get and what I believe I'll get, I will fucking get. You just have to believe in that shit. So anyway, another inspiring podcast, and that's one of the first ones, first live podcast here on YouTube. So it's been an honor and pleasure to talk to all you all here. Thanks for the people who are hanging out with me. That's amazing. Again, you can always find my content everywhere. I've came from TikTok, so you can find my content over there. Look at the description here on YouTube to find out where I'm at. You can find the username. Also, after these podcasts, I usually will record these and repost. I'll do my editing first to make sure I take certain things out. But for the most part, they're going to be the same quality. These are going to be repurposed and put into Spotify, put into my Apple Podcast. I'm probably gonna be do some with Apple Podcasts soon, but they might get the priority of shit because of the fact that I'm trying to get to the subscription program. Same thing here on YouTube. Like the vision or goal I have for YouTube is obviously, like, at the end of the day, get more people to listen to this stuff. And I think, eventually within time, we will get to that piece. We'll get to that point where, like, eventually there is going to be a following here. I firmly believe it. But at the same way, you have to work on it. You have to be consistent to get to where you're going to be at. And I challenge every fucking buddy who's watching this right now. At some point, you have to come to a thing where you have to fucking do shit, and you have to be consistent at it, and you have to keep working. Even if it seems like you're not getting anywhere with it, if this is what you feel like your purpose is at the end of the day, you should still keep working at it. It's just like, I will put one more thing and we'll go towards the end of this. It's just like how, like, I mentioned this before. My older has a podcast he's working with another guy here in Bohol. He's obviously my brother's Filipino, and his friend is a non-Filipino Caucasian white male. And they were talking over when we had dinner with them the other night, where they're just like, "Oh, how long is your podcast?" We were asking my brother, "How long is your podcast?" "Oh, it's about an hour." And then, like, his friend was like, "I wish it was shorter." And then I said they asked, I made my comment for mine. I was like, mine's like 2 hours. Because, man, like, again, congrats to you. If you can talk and say your piece in 45 minutes, that's amazing. Then you can, congratulations. But for me, I feel like it's like, again, these aren't for individuals where, like, you are quick and dry. These are the people who are going, you're going through work and you need something to listen to, or you're driving like a long way to your work, or you just need something for you to just get some inspiration on and just maybe fall asleep to. These are the type of stuff that you will find affinity to. So anyway, always an honor and pleasure, even in here, like we're finally live here on YouTube. It's always an honor and pleasure to talk to you guys. I'm here to inspire you. It's not about me. It's about you and the other people behind you that you're inspiring. It's on you to get to next door. I'm just giving you the fucking keys. The way I tell people, I'm just giving you the keys to open a door to get to where you need to go. So if that's the case, then I hope all my podcasts, not just this, I have other podcasts. Even too, you should venture out to Spotify and Apple Podcasts, where we're like 45 in total now of podcast episodes. So please make sure you support me in all those other avenues. Again, I appreciate if you see this video that you give me a thumbs up and like. Make sure you subscribe to me here on YouTube as well. I'm on TikTok as well. If you want to venture out to TikTok, make sure you give me a follow there as well. I'm also on Spotify. I'm also on Apple Podcasts. Joe Lobo presents The Authentic Podcast. Again, you guys have a great evening, afternoon, morning, whenever you're listening to us or watching this. It's always been an honor and pleasure talking to you guys here, finally on YouTube. So again, I mentioned too, the next episode will probably be on TikTok. We'll see how it goes. But I think I'm going to alternate here and there, but I'll still post content. I appreciate you giving me a subscription here if you're listening to me on YouTube. Everywhere else, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple Podcasts, I'm on TikTok. So again, Joe Lobo presents The Authentic Podcast. You can check out my details, where I'm at, or where you can find me. Again, it's been always an honor and pleasure. My name is Joe Lobo. You guys have a great night. You guys take care. See you later.